This is big breaking emergency news. We are now being issued an emergency warning from the White House. They have sent out letters to the states and to the governors, and they are warning them that a major attack to our water supply is coming. They are warning that the water is going to be shut off, and you need to be filling up your water tanks and your gas tanks right now, right? The White House sent out this urgent letter warning states that they need to get prepared right now because they are worried that this attack and this shutoff of the critical services is coming very, very soon. They know something big is coming and we need to be getting prepared for it, right? So let's dive into this news here really quick. Hit that like, hit that subscribe. I'm posting multiple times a day, keeping you guys updated on this big, urgent emergency news. All right, but check this out. This was just posted by the White House, right? They just sent this letter out to governors. Every governor in the state is being warned, or every governor in the country is being warned right now and is being sent these letters. All right, here's the letter. It says, disabling cyber attacks are striking water and wastewater systems throughout the United States. These attacks have the potential to disrupt the critical lifeline of clean and safe drinking water, as well as impose significant cost on affected communities. It says, we are writing to describe the nature of these threats and request your partnership on important actions to secure the water systems against the increasing risk from and consequences of these attacks. Right? And they've warned that these systems are already compromised. They're already compromised and they are waiting for them to be activated. All right? You can see here it says, federal departments and agencies assess with high confidence that Volt Typhoon actors are pre-positioning themselves to disrupt critical infrastructure operations. All right, that's what they are warning of in this White House letter that was just sent out. All right, and they are warning that that is potentially related to this Volt Typhoon cyber espionage coordination that has been going on for months now. All right, they are warning that these systems are already hacked, they're already compromised, and they're waiting to flip the switch, and they are worried the switch is going to be flipped very soon. All right, and this also brings up things like false flag events. This situation could be exploited potentially as well by bad actors. All right, and we also could have false targetings of this. Okay, these cyber attacks and cyber espionage, sometimes they're hard to pinpoint exactly where they're coming from, and there could be proxies. All right, there could be virtual servers that are in place that make it look like it's coming from a place when it's not. All right, so we need to be on the lookout for that. But they're warning that the water is going to get turned off. The water's going to get turned off, right? They said here, drinking water and wastewater systems, this is from the White House, are an attractive target for cyber attacks because they are a lifeline critical infrastructure sector, but often lack resources and technology capacity to adopt rigorous cybersecurity practices. All right, that's what they're warning of, and they are teaming up with the EPA to try to increase cybersecurity on our wastewater systems. All right, and if you remember, this happened a few years ago. There was a wastewater system that was hacked, and they were able to increase the levels of sodium hydroxide in the water, which is lye, which can blind you and burn your skin and cause chemical reactions as well with other things if it's in the water. All right, so very serious. They were able to attack it and put excess amounts in it from accessing their systems because there's normally a little bit put in, but they were able to dump the whole thing in remotely. This was a few years ago, and I believe it was actually in Florida. It was in Oldsmar, Florida, I believe, is where that happened a few years ago. So very serious, and they're warning that this is coming very soon. So get your water tanks filled up, guys. All right, I got a big 200-gallon water tank out here. We got little 8-gallon water tanks as well, handheld ones that we can move around. We use for animals, the chicken watering. We fill those up and use those to wet their food and fill up their food bowls, all right? Because all that stuff's going to be down. It's all going to be down, and you need water for everything. You can't even flush the toilet. You can't take a shower. The wastewater systems, they're worried about that. What's everyone going to do? Where are you going to go to the bathroom if you live on the grid? All right, we are lucky enough that we have a well, but we are still attached to power right now. We're working on getting solar, but if the power goes out, our well isn't working. All right, we could figure out how to get it hooked up to the generator if this continued for prolonged periods, but this is what you're dealing with, right? This is what we're dealing with, and they are warning that it's coming very soon. All right, so get prepared, have your preps ready, have your prepper pantry stocked up, and have these systems ready to go as well. And this is something that I've thought about for a long time, especially thinking of it in a prepping scenario, is that all they have to do is turn the water off. That's all they have to do. For chaos to ensue, all they have to do is turn the water off. Nobody's cooking, nobody's making any food, nothing's going to work, nobody can wash their hands, nobody can flush the toilet. It's not going to work. None of the animals are getting fed. This is what happens when the water's turned off, and that's all they have to do for chaos to really ensue. And if it hits a big city, you can bet there's going to be a lot of chaos. Imagine these high-rise buildings with no water and the toilet's not flushing, and there's 10,000 people living in it, right? It's not going to be pretty. It's going to be nasty. It's going to be stinky, and it could turn chaotic as well very quickly if it's not resolved, okay? And we talked about potential false flag scenarios for this being set up, but there also are foreign governments that have this capability as well. They are warning that specifically China, with their Volt Typhoon program, that is what they're most worried about. And they're most worried that if any kind of military conflict arises, even a proxy conflict with Taiwan between the US and China, then they are worried that China would activate these back doors and shut off our communication systems and potentially our water systems. All right, that is what they're warning of, and it could happen. That is a real threat. All right, and it's also a real threat that this threat could be exploited for someone else that wants to do it. Also, they are warning that Iranian-backed groups and Iran itself have been affiliated and are targeting critical infrastructure. This actually happened a few months ago, where wastewater systems actually were taken offline in places like Pennsylvania, Ohio. It was nationwide. And they were saying it was due to Iranian-backed groups, right? The Iran Revolutionary Guard. That's what they were saying. We're taking our wastewater and water systems offline. So, and these countries do have advanced cyber capabilities. They have invested heavily in their cyber capabilities. So this is a real threat. This is possible. And that's all they have to do is turn the water off. Right? So make sure you guys are getting prepared. Make sure you guys are getting ready. All right? Let me give you guys a quick update here on our chicks. All right? These chicks are getting really big. All right? They're going to go outside soon. We have one that has bumblefoot on her foot. All right? And we're working on that. We've been soaking it in iodine. If you have any type of homestead, or even if you don't, iodine should be in your preps for any type of disaster. All right, if there's a radiological disaster, iodine's great. And it's also good for cleaning. That's what they use on farms. That's what they use for surgeries. they soak everything in iodine because it sterilizes and disinfects everything as well, right? So make sure you have iodine in your preps. And if the water goes out, these girls aren't drinking water either. Animals aren't going to make it long without drinking water. That's something to think about too. Your pets aren't going to have water. So if you can't have big water tanks, if you're in a smaller situation, this is what I did when I didn't really have much space. I would just buy gallon jugs of water, drink the water, and then I would fill the water jugs back up with tap water and store that. And I would just have a bunch of tap water stored for emergencies just in case. And we actually used it a few times because we've been through a few hurricanes, right? There's a ton of hurricanes down south, and the power goes out sometimes and the water doesn't work. Toilets don't flush. If you have some water, you can pour some water in the back of the toilet to get it to flush and then get that valve to flush and open up. But if you don't have water in the back, then it's not going to flush. It's not going to go down, right? And it's not going to fill back up again either. So the situation can get bad very quickly if you don't have water. That's why it's critical. You can't cook anything. You can't cook. You can't clean your dishes. All these things. I've lived off-grid in my RV for years, right? For about 3 years on and off. And it's rough. When you don't have water, living off water tanks, it's rough. It is rough. You're struggling to wash your dishes. You're struggling to shower, right? You're struggling. One time my truck broke down and we didn't have water for a week. And nobody showered. Nobody could do anything because we were just saving and salvaging the little tiny bit of water that we had left. We were trying to stretch it out, right? Because it hit. The truck just broke down. Out in the middle of the desert, out in the middle of nowhere, truck broke down and I couldn't move it for a week. Couldn't get water because we were living off water tanks in my RV, right? So something you do not want to be rationing, and it's so foreign to us. We're so used to turning on the tap. When you're living off water tanks, it's a whole nother ball game. You're really rationing the water, and really, you don't want to waste any of it. You don't want to be dumping any of it. You're counting every drop when you're living off tanks, and if the water's shut off, that's how you're going to be. You're going to be living off bottled water, water jugs, and tanks. That's all that you're going to have, right? And also look into water catchment and collection systems. That's something we want to work on soon, right? We get a ton of rain, and we want to have water catchment systems. We already have a little pond in the back, right, that catches a bunch of water, but we want to have a few barrels and things like that are hooked up to our gutter systems that we can catch water with as well. That's closer to the house and more accessible and not as dirty, a little more clean, because the pond pretty swampy. All right, I don't want to be using this swampy pond water back here. All right, don't want to be doing that. I will, if I have to, bust out the life straw. That's another thing you need, is a life straw or a Sawyer mini straw that'll filter out any bacteria, protozoa, viruses, anything like that. It'll filter them out. It's not going to filter out contaminants. Most of them don't. Things like lead, things like heavy metals, it's really not going to filter that out. Particles are too small, most of them, but it will filter out bacteria, which are not, they're not microparticles. It's not like a sand particle, a little particle of lead. It's a actual, bacteria, single cell organism. So it can catch that. It'll filter that out. It'll prevent you from getting sick in that way. But if you're drinking dirty water that's contaminated, it's not going to filter out. Most of them aren't. At least the portable ones that you can throw in a bug out bag. All right, so have these things. Be prepared. Be ready. They're warning coming from the White House, coming from the top, and they're sending this to all the governors nationwide. They're warning them, hey, the attack's coming, the water's going to be shut off soon, and you need to get ready. You need to be getting prepared. That's what the White House is telling the governors right now. All right, so please hit it up for me down there. Hit that like, hit that sub, help get this warning out. People need to know. People need to be prepared. And I hope you have big blessings for your life, your homestead, and I hope you have a big old blessed day.